Okay, this is the 1985 Ford F250. It has the 460 carbureted engine. The fuel pump went out in it. The rear fuel pump went out in it. All of a sudden it stopped running. I switched to the front tank and it started running again. So I figured it was the fuel pump. So you have a side mounted front fuel tank and you have the rear mounted fuel tank. So we're going to keep this short and sweet. Take those 3 screws out because this took actually a long time to accomplish because there was many setbacks. So take those 3 screws out, the cap off, go underneath, take the hose clamp loose, and then there's another hose clamp right there. Take that loose. You pull that down towards you and twist it and pull it out of the rubber neck that's right there. Pull it out of there, and then you're going to have a plastic breather tube that allows you to fill the tank up with at the gas station, so it allows the air to come out of the tank. Take that off. Leave the rubber hose up there because you can't really get to the hose clamp, and then take the 4 bolts out of the skid plate, and the skid plate is actually the only thing holding it in there because there's straps going over the top, at least on this one. And then before all that happens, you need to siphon the tank. So before you take the 4 bolts out, you need to pull the hose off here, and then you need to have a small diameter siphon tube because the tank has an anti-siphoning baffle in it. So unless the hose is 3/8 or so or smaller, it's not going to fit into the anti-siphoning situation. I learned that the hard way. So then you can also pick up a little drill operated siphoning tube. So once the tank is siphoned, then you want to go underneath. It's not going to be easy to show. So there's plastic. There's plastic retaining clips that are mounted to the cross member. There's a couple of them. There's one right there. There's one right there. You want to take those out because you need slack in the fuel lines and the wiring harness, because you need to be able to drop this tank down on this back portion, on this back corner. And I cut a couple pieces of wood that were about 2 feet long so you could set the tank down on top of the piece of wood. So you drop the tank down and you have to get that rubber hose, your filler neck, that needs to come down past this frame. So that's got to bend through there and pull it down, and then unhook your lines. It just takes a little flathead screwdriver to pop the little clips off of the breather or the return line and the feed line. Pop the clips off, pull the lines off, and then you've got a little snap clip that connects the wiring to the fuel pump, the sending unit. So pop that off so you're free from the wiring and the hoses. And then drop your tank down. And if this exhaust was not in the way, the tank would just simply come straight down. There would be nothing blocking it. But since the exhaust is in the way, you have to kind of pull it down, push it over this way, and then pull it down on one side, and then, you know, work its way out. But it's not difficult to get out. So when I got the tank out, I went looking online to replace the sending unit, because it's a drop-in sending unit. And they do not make a drop-in unit any longer for the steel rear tank. It's a 19-gallon steel rear tank. It has a bigger neck than, it also came with a F-150 fuel injected, came with a plastic tank with a smaller neck. So they do not make this sending unit any longer, which sucks. So luckily my lines and sending unit were okay, because it's recessed at the top where the lines come out of it. And I'm sure that because this truck was pampered, this is the original paint, it was probably stored inside for the majority of its life. I can't imagine what the top of that sending unit looks like on the majority of these trucks that sat outside. So I searched online. I tried to find an NOS pump. There are none available anywhere. So I went up to the local Napa, and they ordered me a new pump. So you can get the pump that looks just like this. It doesn't have the sock on it, but that is the part number, and then the sock is that, and they actually had the sock in stock. So this pump, the pump that they got for me, looks exactly the same. It comes with a new hose and new clamps, but it does not come with the sock. It comes with a new O-ring gasket for the sending unit, but I just reused the original O-ring because it was in fine shape. I just cleaned it up and put it back in. So the tricky part, once you get the new pump installed to your old sending unit, you put that back in, and then the tricky part is getting the breather, plastic breather tube that's inside the filler neck back in there, because it is really tight. So there is enough room. So you essentially have to take the rubber pipe off before you put this fuel tank in. You have to take this rubber pipe off, and then put your breather tube, your plastic breather tube, into the proper slot that goes into the tank first. And then you take this rubber breather tube with the hose clamp on it, and you slide it over the breather tube, and then hopefully it slides, maybe put a little bit of WD-40 or something on it. Hopefully it slides over your tank spout. So then you need to get in there with this little tiny ratchet, because your hand will fit in there, and tighten the hose clamp, which you can see the rubbed raw wounds from accomplishing this. So once that is on, then you slide this over the top of the breather and mount it into its slot that's in this thing, and then you're back in action. Fire it up, make sure there's no leaks or anything, put your tank back up in there, tighten the bolts, and just kind of in a reverse fashion put that back in there. But if it's a 19-gallon steel tank, the sending unit is not available, but the pump is. If it's a plastic tank, then a sending unit is available. So that's just a quick video on the 1985 Ford F250 with the 460. The fueling system on these trucks is kind of a nightmare, because you've got two electric pumps in two tanks, and then the wiring runs through an inertia switch, and then through an oil pressure switch. And if any of those go bad, and I believe the reset button is right there for your fuel pump. So I have read online where people are chasing gremlins with this fuel system for months. But anyway, there's a quick overview of the 1985 F250. That the fuel pump was a lot more difficult than I thought. to install. And plus I had to cut off all of the sliding rear bumper because it had a camper on it, so they had a sliding rear bumper, so I had to cut all that stuff off. And so anyway, there it is. Hopefully that helps somebody out there that's going through this same process. Thank you.